We all have those houseplants where despite what we do, they just never look good. And sometimes we hang on to them for probably longer than we should. And eventually we just let them die. I don't care who you are or what your knowledge is with houseplants or experience. I guarantee we all struggle with certain plants. So I'm going to show you 5 plants that I just can't keep looking good. So yeah, let's get into it. Hey, I'm Jeff and welcome back to another video. I'm going to start off with these two. This is the Philodendron Mame and I believe it's the silver variety. I haven't had this one or these two for very long, maybe only a couple months. They were potted up together. I did separate them and put them in their own pots as I wanted to, I don't know, I guess separate them. I really didn't have a good reason. But I will give this plant credit. Since I've owned it, it continuously puts out new leaves, but all the new leaves, for whatever reason, they always come out super deformed, like this one right here. And you can see it is getting a new leaf, but the last new leaf, it did get quite deformed. It didn't unfurl properly, and it always just looks like trash. Putting it bluntly. Same with this one. This is the 3rd leaf that it's gotten in the last couple months. This one looks like it completely rotted off. This one I cut off, and again, it's getting a new leaf. Just looking at this one this morning, I did notice that the roots have reached the bottom, and now they're starting to grow upwards. So it's probably going to need a larger pot here at some point, but sometimes when roots grow upwards like that, the soil is a little bit too dense at the bottom, or it's searching out for nutrients and moisture. So maybe I'm underwatering it. Maybe it does need some fertilizer. So I might try that. I did have both of these plants downstairs here in my little workshop area studio. I did move this one up into my bedroom just on the windowsill, and it's also getting some supplemental light from a grow light since it's wintertime here. So I'm gonna see if that's a determining factor, whether it just doesn't like the grow lights down here, which I don't think that's the case, but sometimes when you get deformed leaves, it can be a humidity issue, or it can actually be a pest issue. I don't see any pests on it. Right now I am treating preventatively with beneficial bugs. And occasionally, if I have an issue, I will use the systemic houseplant insecticide. But I can't understand why this one is not doing good. Like, it's horrible, it's pathetic. So this is 1 or 2 plants that I'm currently struggling with. The next plant, I was just going to show this one. This is the Schismatoglottis wallichii, but then I realized all of my Schismatoglottis plants, they're not looking the greatest. This is one that I have a little bit of difficulty with, and I'll explain what I've done to kind of rectify or hopefully change the growing conditions. These plants, they like really high humidity and they don't like to dry out at all. You really have to keep up on watering with these guys. And I found these are very susceptible to spider mites and even thrips. That's what this one has struggled with. You can see this leaf is a little bit more yellow than the other ones. I did recently treat it for spider mites. I used Endol insecticide spray. So this is one that I have to keep my eye on. Oh, here's the yellow leaf. This is one that I have to keep my eye on, despite there being pretty decent humidity as well as light down here. It's all under grow lights. It's constantly pushing out new growth, but all the new leaves, at some point they will get yellow. And they'll also get some crispy edges. So I really have to keep my eye on these ones. I was just going to show this one, but the rest of them, they're not looking good as well. I see other people's Instagram and YouTube videos of these giant, luscious, full pots of these Schismatoglottis plants. And yeah, look at this. I'm not giving up on these. I refuse to, just because the foliage is gorgeous. They have such beautiful patterns on them. I'll figure it out, I'll get there, but I think this is gonna be one of those plants where I will keep for a long period of time before giving up on them. See, I'm always looking for spider mites on these plants, but I never, yeah, it's tough right now because like I said, I am treating all my plants with beneficial bugs, so I'll see a bug on it, but I'm like, is that a spider mite or is that a beneficial bug? And yeah, I'm trying not to squish them or whatever. I'm just letting the beneficial bugs do their thing. And it's funny because I probably display them on my plant table here, but they look decent here, but when you see them up close, it's like, oh, That's not looking good. And again, there is a humidifier right there. They should be getting high humidity in this area, and I can't understand why they continuously get spider mites, because spider mites like hot and dry. They don't like humid areas. And downstairs here, I try and keep it above 50%, so it's in around that 50, 55, sometimes even 60% downstairs, and they still get bugs. I don't understand why. But anyways, let's check out some more. This, embarrassingly, is my Calathea orbifolia, which I've had for probably over 2 years. This is the greatest it's looked in a long time, and this is the most amount of leaves that it's had. This plant, in reality, should be massive. It should be huge, but this is all that I can get it to do. And right now, for probably the last year, it has not had more than 2 or 3 leaves. It has 4 leaves, and I'll kind of give it credit because it's not looking, whoops. See, that's why I hate leca. I only have 1 leca plant. I just slightly tipped it over and a little pebble fell on the floor. Anyways, it has 2 decent looking leaves, and it has 2 very classic crispy Calathea leaves. I don't buy Calathea anymore. And I realize I shouldn't say that because I bought another orbifolia. The 2 Calatheas that I refuse to give up on is the orbifolia. I want those big massive leaves, but again, this is another plant that's pretty susceptible to spider mites. So the Mosaica and the orbifolia are the only 2 Calatheas that I will ever buy again. The Mosaica, it's a pretty hardy Calathea. So that one, it's been pretty easy. I don't have any issues with it. I just love these leaves. I don't know what it is. The big round, orbifolia leaves, it's got a little place in my heart. So I refuse to give up on this one. I did have it in soil a couple years ago. I switched over to leca, but other than that, I don't really do much for this. It's in kind of a low light area in my bedroom, and every time it puts out a new leaf, it loses 1 or 2 more. So I may have 1 leaf at a single time, or right now I have 4. This specimen right here is the Aglaonema key largo. I generally don't have any issues with my other Aglaonemas. They're a pretty easy plant to take care of. This one has always looked a little bit on the rougher side since I purchased it. Whenever it pushes out a new leaf, it tends to get a little bit droopy, but I also, I'll take some credit that I do underwater this one, so it's pretty common if you underwater these plants that they'll drop their lower leaves as they push out new growth, or they'll try and maintain their leaves on top. So this is partially my doing, but it does have a few stems where they just look a little bit damaged or deformed from, like I said, when I bought it. I've been letting this one just kind of do its thing for the last, I'm constantly looking out for pests. I've just been letting it do its thing for the last year or so, hoping that it will just one day look spectacular. That's not the case. So I'm kind of fed up with this plant right now, so it's time to take action. I am going to do this. It's getting a chop. It's getting chopped down. And I'll show you an example of another plant that I've done this to recently. This will spark new growth, new branching, so I'm not worried about harming this plant by cutting it back. I'm going to cut this one back up here, just like that. Just chopping it down. There, that looks better. Yeah, it can be quite intimidating cutting a plant like this. I can now propagate this, make an entirely new plant. I'm gonna run upstairs and grab a couple examples of ones that I've hacked down like this and ones that I have propagated the top cuttings with. Here is an Aglaonema cutlass, which I hacked up a few months ago. It was getting really kind of stretched out. It only had leaves as kind of like a top canopy. So I decided to do a little experiment and just hack it up completely. And it has branched out in a number of areas. It's starting to look very full and luscious again. So that has given me confidence to do it with many other houseplants. This key largo, it might be a little bit more slower right now to get new branches, as it's the early part of winter. So the growth of this has definitely slowed down. but as you could see, it was getting some new leaves, so that's why I decided to cut it back today. It's still actively growing, so I know it hasn't gone dormant or anything like that. So this is one example of a couple that I have upstairs of completely cutting back an Aglaonema if it's just not looking good. Now here is an example of an Aglaonema Emerald Beauty, which I took the top cuttings from. I propagated them in water, and now they are in soil. Look at all these roots that are already poking out the bottom. But now I have an entirely new pot of the Emerald Beauty just from taking the top cutting propagations. The last plant I'm going to show you guys is my Alocasia Black Velvet. I'm a huge Alocasia fan, but I'll be honest, I'm ready to pitch this one in the garbage. It has a really thick stem, but for whatever reason, I can't get this to have more than 2-3 leaves at one time. This leaf is decent, other than being a little bit deformed at the top here, but this one is more of a cup shape. I can't wash the leaves off or anything like that because it holds onto water, and that will quickly lead to some rot or rotting parts on the leaves. I'm not liking this one at the moment, and I'm trying to be patient with it. I am seeing if it will recover. It's got this new little leaf spike here for the longest time. It's just not doing anything. Like I said, I'm quickly losing patience with this one. Oh, there's a little, looks like a little side shoot popping up right there. So maybe it is getting some new growth. I'm not too sure, but anyways, that is not going to change how I feel about this plant. I don't like it, so it's on borrowed time for sure. So I think that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I hope you liked my picks. That doesn't really sound right because I hope you don't like that I have whatever. So yeah, I think that's gonna be pretty much it for this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave it down below in the comment section. If you want to check out another houseplant video, click this link right here. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Take care. Bye.